Florida's Secretary of State, an individual who was appointed by Republican Governor DeSantis, has stepped down. He has resigned following the reemergence of a photo from years ago where he is at a Halloween party in blackface, appearing to mock a Hurricane Katrina survivor. Yeah, so his name is Michael Ertel. He was appointed as Secretary of State by Governor Ron DeSantis, and he turned in his resignation after these photos emerged of him posing as a Hurricane Katrina victim in blackface at a private Halloween party 14 years ago. This was 2 months after 1,800 people were killed by the massive storm. So it's incredibly, it's an incredibly sensitive thing at that moment especially, and he thought it would be fun to kind of mock these people. The photo was taken in 2005, 8 months after Ertel was appointed Seminole County Supervisor of Elections, and 2 months after Hurricane Katrina devastated New Orleans. Now, with that said, I was pretty surprised to find that even though that was a giant lapse of judgment, he had done some good things in the state of Florida when it came to voter registration. So
yeah, can I just say,
sure.
That is a significant twist in the story I did not expect.
Agreed.
Yeah, because it's not that he appeared to be mocking Hurricane Katrina victims. He almost certainly was, because the T-shirt, you couldn't see it in that picture, said on it Katrina victim. So. And that did not look like a respectful rendition or way of presenting someone that was a Hurricane Katrina victim 2 months after it happened, and it's a Halloween outfit, right? So now look, and there's blackface that is problematic, but is not necessarily intentional. So what I mean by that is, so for example, Megyn Kelly was defending the woman who did the blackface in trying to be Diana Ross on Halloween, right? Now Megyn Kelly should know better than to say, hey, what's the big deal? Which is what she was basically saying. She's like, we used to do that all the time when we were kids, etc. But the person who actually went in that outfit, it's not like you shouldn't correct them. You should. You say, hey, that has an awful history in this country and was used to mock African Americans, and in fact provoked violence against them and got a lot of people killed, and that's why we don't do it. But that person who dressed up as Diana Ross didn't necessarily know that, and did not necessarily, I don't know their intentions, but didn't necessarily mean to mock Diana Ross or do anything wrong. But we can have conversations about that to educate people. In this case, he was 35 years old. He was already in government office, and that was clearly mocking African-American victims. By the way, he could have been a Katrina victim and been white, but he chose to go as a black person. So the outfit was clearly unacceptable from a grown-up who was already in politics, okay? But now here comes the giant twist.
Yeah, according to multiple reports, the city of Longwood gave him a Martin Luther King Jr. award for registering voters. In fact, in 2012, he spoke out against Governor Rick Scott's purge of so-called non-citizens from voter rolls, saying many of those who were purged were actually eligible voters. So look, like most people, he's a mixed bag. He did a wonderful thing when it came to voter registration and protecting our democracy when it comes to voters and giving them the ability to go out there and cast their vote. But this was a horrible, horrible decision. His Halloween costume was ridiculous and beyond offensive, and he's paid the price for that.
Right. I actually think that there's something almost a little weird in this story. Because here's what you have to understand. Whenever something like this comes out, there is some percentage chance that it's just happenstance. So somebody ran across a picture of this guy in their photo album, and they're like, oh, that guy's now the Secretary of State, and I'm gonna give it to my local paper, right? That's a 20% chance at most. 80% chances is opposition research, and that somebody on the other side found it and gave it to the press, okay? Now, I think that there's some chance in this case it might have been a Republican and not a Democrat. And look, because it's super surprising that Ron DeSantis picked him to be Secretary of State in the first place. Remember, Republicans just fought tooth and nail to make sure that 1.4 million people in Florida would not be able to vote. Those are the people who were felons and now are out and have regained their rights. And there was a ballot measure and that gave them those rights. So DeSantis was against that. And this guy is a Republican, Michael Ertel, that we're talking about here. But he didn't just win the MLK award. He has a record of increasing voter registration in almost every place that he's worked, making it more accessible to the public. And he's even won international awards for voter registration, which is not what the Republican Party has done in this country for decades. So I would give him tremendous credit, even if I disagreed with him on all other issues. Because if his job is to increase voter registration and he increases voter registration, that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And so it's weird that DeSantis picked him, and I don't know why Democrats would want to take him out. That doesn't make any sense. So it's curious that this picture came out when it did.
Right. The photo is just so egregious, right? That with so many things in our nation needing nuance, it goes past that. And so in this case, you have someone who, as you say, is a mixed bag and obviously has qualities and intentions that are valuable. But he was truly like mocking people on such a deep and really aggressive level that at some point, and he said it himself, he said, look, there's nothing I can say and I'm gone.
Yeah.
And that's what he needed to do, right? To push the whole country forward.
Yeah, I had mixed emotions about him saying there's nothing I can say. Well, one, you could say, God damn, that was thoughtless.
Yeah, I'm an idiot.
Yeah, and why did I do that? And that's especially 2 months after. Anyway, I can't apologize enough, and I gotta go. But I'm telling you from the bottom of my heart, I really wish I hadn't done that. Not because I got caught, but because it was a terrible thing to do at the time. Okay, so there is something you could say, right? Yeah. On the other hand, most Republicans would deny and fight and all this stuff, right? And he at least had the decency to say, no, I'm good. That's bad. Nothing I can say. I gotta go. Right. And if you're wondering why did he win a Martin Luther King Award? Because the whole point of blocking voter registration, or certainly a huge portion of it for the Republican Party, is to block black voters because they vote for Democrats more often. So that is why they do a great number of tricks to make sure less people are registered to vote and less people actually do vote. And so they especially target minorities. And so when you actually open up the vote and invite more people to do so, now that should be normal in a democracy, but people are like, wow, a Republican that actually wants everybody to vote.
I know.
So you get a Martin Luther King Award. They're obviously probably rethinking that at this moment, given what we see there. But it is a complicated story and not just straightforward, and we wanted you to know all the facts. On the go? Don't worry, we got you covered. You can still listen to TYT at our new podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, or at tyt.com/podcast.